Let me tell you something about interstellar logistics. It's not nearly as glamorous as the recruitment posters make it seem. One moment you're a decorated military supply chain specialist, and the next you're essentially a cosmic delivery driver with more bureaucratic paperwork than a government tax office during audit season. My name is Evelyn Reyes. I'm 47, 5'6", with exactly 3 gray hairs that I'm pretty sure appeared the same week my son Diego decided that following family communication protocols was more of a gentle suggestion than a life requirement. I'd spent 20 years managing critical supply chains for the Terran Expeditionary Logistics Corps. Moving everything from replacement circuit boards for deep space probes to emergency medical supplies for frontier colonies was my specialty. I could route a critical shipment through 3 different star systems faster than most people could order takeout. Efficiency was my religion, and precision was my sacred text. Then Diego vanished. Not the dramatic kidnapped by space pirates kind of vanished. No. I'm an independent young adult making absolutely sure my mother cannot track my precise location kind of vanished. His last known communication had been an encrypted microburst transmission that came through on a frequency typically used by geological survey teams. The message was frustratingly cryptic: "Mom, don't worry. Definitely not in trouble. Possibly near the Carina Arm. Maybe." Followed by a data packet that looked like it had been run through more scrambling algorithms than a paranoid cryptographer's nightmare. Most parents would have called the authorities, filed a missing persons report, maybe hired a private investigator. I requisitioned a courier ship. The Hermes-class vessel was technically surplus equipment, which is government speak for we're one maintenance cycle away from selling this for scrap. But I knew ships like most people know their favorite coffee orders. This particular model was a temperamental beast with more retrofit modifications than original parts, but it had 2 things going for it: speed and a quantum AI navigation system that I'd personally recalibrated 6 months prior. ARIA. I addressed the ship's AI as I ran final pre-flight diagnostics. Give me a probability matrix on Diego's potential locations based on that transmission. The holographic interface flickered, displaying a constellation of potential trajectories that looked less like a scientific projection and more like a toddler's attempt to connect the dots. Probability analysis inconclusive. ARIA responded in a tone that suggested profound digital disappointment. Transmission contains approximately 72.6% noise, 14.3% potential geological survey data, and 13.1% unknown quantum encryption. I snorted. So basically my son doesn't want to be found. Affirmative, ARIA agreed, somehow managing to sound both precise and sarcastic. The ship's comm systems chirped with one final bureaucratic notification: my unofficial leave of absence, which was more of a polite suggestion than an actual order. 20 years of impeccable service meant I'd accumulated enough goodwill to basically do whatever I wanted, provided I didn't start an interstellar incident. Spoiler alert, I was about to dramatically exceed those parameters. As the ship's quantum drives hummed to life and the starport's massive magnetic locks disengaged, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't going to be a typical search and rescue mission. Little did I know typical was about to become a truly hilarious understatement. The first sign that this mission was going to be complicated came approximately 3.7 hours after leaving Terran space. ARIA, I called out, staring at the scrambled communication packet that was supposedly from Diego. Run another decryption pass on this transmission. And this time pretend my patience isn't wearing thinner than a deep space radiation shield. The ship's AI responded with what could only be described as a digital sigh. Attempting advanced quantum linguistic decryption. Probability of success marginal. I'd packed for a mission that could take weeks, maybe months. This meant 1 emergency medical kit, military grade, capable of treating everything from radiation poisoning to unexpected alien allergic reactions. 3 weeks of compressed nutrient packs which tasted like someone's terrible attempt at making cardboard palatable. Backup communication modules. A personal arsenal that would make most frontier security teams look under-equipped. 1 slightly worn photo of Diego from his last birthday looking simultaneously annoyed and amused, which was basically his default expression since turning 19. My son was a geological survey specialist, or at least that's what his official documentation claimed. In reality, Diego was more of a professional wanderer with an uncanny ability to find trouble in places most rational humans wouldn't even consider existing. The first major anomaly occurred when ARIA's navigation system started picking up some unusual background radiation signatures. Detecting quantum interference pattern, ARIA announced. Inconsistent with standard stellar drift models. I raised an eyebrow. Define inconsistent. Imagine, ARIA said, and I swear the AI was developing a sense of humor, a mathematical equation written by someone who believes probability is more of a suggestion than a rule. The ship's quantum drive began to fluctuate in a way that would make most pilots extremely nervous. Fortunately, I'd long since graduated from nervous to mildly irritated. ARIA, I said, pulling up the navigational schematics. Are we being deliberately redirected? Affirmative, the AI responded, though deliberately might be an overstatement. It's more like we're being gently nudged by cosmic forces that seem to have a sense of irony. 3 hours later, we emerged near a star system that definitely was not on any of my original navigation charts. The local stellar cartography looked like someone had taken a standard galactic map and decided to play abstract art with it. This, I muttered, is not where I expected to be looking for my son. ARIA's holographic interface flickered, displaying a series of impossible geometric patterns. Correction. This is precisely where unexpected things happen. I had a feeling we were about to prove that statement dramatically correct. First contact is supposed to be this grand, carefully orchestrated diplomatic event, with protocols, translation matrices, and probably some kind of ceremonial exchange of exotic gifts. Nobody mentioned what happens when first contact occurs because a frustrated mother accidentally interrupts an alien governmental session while trying to ask for navigation directions. The Krell-Nax delegation, a species that looked like what would happen if you crossed a squid with an architectural blueprint, were mid-debate when my communication request blasted through their secure channels. Their primary communication hub was a massive crystalline structure that seemed to shimmer and pulse with what I can only describe as bureaucratic energy. Excuse me, I said, my tone somewhere between customer service representative and mildly annoyed middle manager. I'm looking for information about a geological survey team that might have passed through this sector. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then chaos. Apparently, my unscheduled transmission violated approximately 247 separate communication protocols. The lead diplomat, a towering being with what appeared to be 7 independently moving tentacles, looked simultaneously offended, confused, and slightly intrigued. You have breached the quintessential communication membrane, the diplomat announced, its translator producing a sound that was half official pronouncement, half dramatic gasp. I blinked. I just want directions. ARIA, ever the helpful AI, decided this was the perfect moment to provide context. Technically, our quantum signature suggests we are not just breaching communication protocols, but potentially violating several interdimensional transit agreements. The Krell-Nax diplomatic corps looked like they were about to have a collective existential crisis. What followed was possibly the most bureaucratically absurd first contact in galactic history. I was attempting to find information about my son, and instead, I was accidentally presenting myself as some kind of diplomatic anomaly. The lead diplomat, who introduced themselves as Representative Cool Ricks of the 7th Administrative Cluster, seemed particularly fixated on my completely unintentional violation of their communication hierarchies. You have entered our primary communication sphere without proper quantum authentication, Cool Ricks declared, 7 tentacles waving in what I was starting to recognize as their version of extreme agitation. I took a sip of the emergency coffee I'd brought, compressed, dehydrated, but still capable of delivering caffeine directly into my bloodstream. Look, I'm just trying to find my son. He's a geological survey specialist who has a remarkable talent for being exactly where he's not supposed to be. Somehow, this statement seemed to intrigue the entire diplomatic corps more than any of my previous explanations. Son, Cool Ricks asked, all 7 tentacles now frozen in what looked like confused fascination. Yes, Diego Reyes. Probably causing some kind of scientific incident somewhere in the galaxy. What I didn't realize at that moment was that I had just set in motion a series of events that would dramatically reshape galactic politics. All because I was looking for one slightly troublesome young geological surveyor. Sometimes motherhood is its own form of interdimensional diplomacy. And sometimes you accidentally start an interstellar incident before lunch. Here's a universal truth they don't teach you in military logistics school. Technological superiority is mostly about confidence and the ability to look like you know exactly what you're doing. The Krell-Nax, still reeling from our unprecedented communication breach, decided that the most logical course of action was to essentially draft me into their bureaucratic system, which in practice meant giving me access to their communication networks while simultaneously treating me like some kind of diplomatic wild card. You will be assigned a quantum compliance attachment, courier announced, 7 tentacles now moving in what I was starting to recognize as their version of administrative excitement. ARIA, ever the helpful AI, translated this into something resembling human language. They're giving you an official diplomatic status. Essentially, you're now a recognized anomaly in their governmental system. I should have been concerned. Instead, I was mostly amused. The quantum compliance attachment turned out to be a small crystalline device that looked like someone had grown a sentient piece of advanced jewelry. It interfaced directly with ARIA, expanding our navigation and communication capabilities by several orders of magnitude. What the Krell-Nax didn't realize was that I'd spent 2 decades managing complex logistical systems for the Terran Expeditionary Corps. Their advanced bureaucratic network was essentially a slightly more complicated version of the supply chain management systems I used to run before breakfast. My first major diplomatic action was to request very politely information about geological survey teams in the sector. What I got was a comprehensive database that made most intelligence agencies look like amateur librarians. ARIA, I said, scrolling through the data, cross-reference these geological survey markers with Diego's last known communication profile. The AI's response was immediate. Fascinating. We have 62 potential match points within a 0.3 light-year radius. The Krell-Nax Diplomatic Corps watched in what I can only describe as bewildered fascination as I treated their complex galactic communication network like a particularly challenging puzzle. What they saw, a human methodically working through their most secure information systems. What was actually happening, a mother looking for her son, armed with nothing more than caffeine, determination, and an AI with an increasingly developed sense of humor. Representative Cool Ricks approached me, or rather, approached ARIA's holographic interface. Your method of information retrieval is unconventional. I didn't even look up. 20 years of military logistics. Unconventional is my baseline. By the time 3 standard galactic days had passed, I had mapped 3 previously uncharted star systems, identified potential geological survey routes, accidentally streamlined the Krell-Nax communication protocols, discovered 3 minor administrative inefficiencies in their governmental structure. The Krell-Nax started looking at me less like an intruder and more like some kind of accidental management consultant. You have simplified our communication matrix by 17.3%, Cool Ricks informed me, all 7 tentacles now moving in what I was beginning to recognize as administrative appreciation. I just wanted to find my son. But apparently in the process I was redesigning their entire governmental communication strategy. Just another Tuesday in the life of Evelyn Reyes. The moment I found Diego was not the triumphant reunion one might expect after an interstellar search. It was, instead, a quintessentially Diego experience that defied all logical explanation. I tracked his quantum signature to a research outpost orbiting a planet that looked like someone had taken the concept of geological instability and turned it into an art form. The planet's surface shifted and reconfigured itself with such frequency that traditional mapping was essentially impossible. ARIA's holographic interface flickered with a hint of what I could only describe as digital exasperation. Detecting human biosignature. Probability of it being your son 99.7%. The research station was a marvel of modular engineering segments that could detach, reconfigure, and reconnect based on environmental conditions. As I docked, the station's communication systems pinged with a message that was equal parts professional report and personal inside joke. Mom, the message read, I can explain. Probably. Maybe. Definitely not in trouble. Those were words I'd heard before. Usually right before something completely unexpected happened. Diego was in the central research hub, a spherical chamber that looked like it had been designed by someone who believed gravity was more of a suggestion than a physical law. He was surrounded by holographic displays showing geological data that would make most planetary scientists weep with joy. When he saw me, he did what any 19-year-old would do when confronted by their mother after an interstellar search. He offered coffee. I discovered a quantum resonance in planetary formation that challenges everything we know about geological development, he began, sliding a steaming cup towards me. Also, hi Mom. Surprise. The next hour was a whirlwind of scientific explanation that would have made most researchers' heads spin. Diego had discovered something remarkable, a method of planetary reconfiguration that could potentially transform how we understood geological processes across multiple star systems. You've been causing an interstellar incident, I said, more statement than question. Diego grinned. Technically, I've been conducting advanced research. The fact that it's causing bureaucratic chaos is just a bonus. What I hadn't realized was that Diego's research had massive implications. The Krell-Nax Diplomatic Corps had been tracking his work, believing it to be some kind of advanced diplomatic mission. My accidental navigation through their systems had only amplified their interest. Representative Cool Ricks chose that moment to manifest on the research station's communication system. 7 tentacles waved in what I was now certain was a gesture of bureaucratic excitement. Geological specialist Reyes Cool Ricks announced, "Your quantum resonance mapping has been deemed a matter of galactic scientific significance." Diego looked at me. I looked at him. "So," he said, "you came all this way to find me." Obviously, I responded. "Someone has to keep you from accidentally starting an interstellar incident." Little did we know we were already well past that point. 3 months after our unexpected reunion, the galactic landscape had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Krell-Nax had officially designated Diego's geological research as a quantum diplomatic discovery, which was bureaucratic speak for we're not entirely sure what just happened, but it seems important. My son had essentially become an accidental scientific diplomat, with me serving as his somewhat skeptical mission coordinator. ARIA, ever the voice of digital reason, summarized our current status during a routine system check. Current diplomatic standing accidentally influential. Probability of continued bureaucratic chaos extremely high. Diego's research had revealed a method of planetary formation and reconfiguration that could potentially transform how civilizations approached planetary colonization. The Krell-Nax were simultaneously terrified and fascinated, a combination that made for some truly interesting diplomatic meetings. So I said to Diego during one particularly complex debriefing, "You're telling me you discovered a way to essentially program planetary geological systems?" He grinned, that same combination of scientific excitement and mild mischief that had been his trademark since childhood. More like understand their fundamental quantum resonance. But yeah, essentially. Representative Cool Ricks's holographic form materialized, 7 tentacles moving in what had become a familiar pattern of administrative excitement. Geological specialist Reyes and diplomatic attachment Reyes, your contribution to galactic understanding is unprecedented. I couldn't help but laugh. What had started as a simple search for my son had transformed into a full-blown interstellar diplomatic mission. The Terran Expeditionary Logistics Corps would never believe this mission report. ARIA chose that moment to interject. "Might I suggest we document this for future historical records?" Diego and I exchanged a look. Some stories were better left partially unexplained. As we prepared for our next research expedition, I realized something fundamental in the vast, complicated universe of interstellar exploration. A mother's determination remains the most powerful navigational tool known to any civilization. And sometimes finding your kid is exactly how you accidentally reshape galactic understanding. Just another day in the Reyes family.